Somebody else can help that today.
26
Yeah.
We're not really much benefit.
It doesn't count for everything.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, very good.
I'm District Secretary Nancy Campbell Hatfield. Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 6, 2012, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin San Ramon Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is President Rich Cox.
Nancy, call to order, and we'll pledge the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Director Howard.
Here.
Dr. Ron Here. Vice President Benson. Here. President Tompkins.
Here. Special announcements, activities.
Nothing.
Public comment. I see no public. Item 6A, reports. General Manager and staff.
Yes, President Halkett, members of the board, mostly scheduling things for your information. First, let me touch on December. Just to remind you, we are not having a regular board meeting on December 4th, Tuesday night. Rather, it will be a special meeting on Monday, December 3rd. That's just a reminder. And then with regard to the board transition, because as you know, we will have at least one new board member, and we'll know who that is after tonight. But the new board will officially take office at noon on Friday, the first Friday of December, which is December 7th, meaning that the first meeting with the newly constituted board will be Tuesday, December 18th. That's a little bit later in the month than it normally is, just because of the vagaries of the calendar, and what it means for staff is we'll be about 2 weeks off in terms of the normal transition process, board officers and committee appointments and everything else. I'll be working with Dawn Benson, I believe, if all goes according to the portal, with the transition plan. Secondly, moving into January, if you look that far into your calendar, you'll know we're scheduled to meet on January 1st, about the time that the Rose Bowl will be in play. Obviously, that's problematic. And the 15th, which is the third Wednesday in the month, is a CASA meeting, which will be a conflict if anybody's attending that. We're suggesting it for the moment. We probably shouldn't finalize this until we have the board weigh in, but we're suggesting for the moment that instead we hold meetings like we've done in the past on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays in January. That will be the 8th and the 22nd. January has 5 Tuesdays, so that seems to be kind of a reasonable way to go. Next, I would note that Michelle Gallardo is once again sitting in a board meeting for Mary Gordon, who's off, and we have had no correspondence to her from the board since our last board meeting. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. 6B, committee reports. Anything? Hearing nothing, we'll move on. 6C, agenda management. Go straight through. We'll see otherwise. Straight through it is. Item 7, approval of minutes, regular meeting of October 16, 2012. Entertain motions. Well, do you have a second? Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Consent calendar, items 8A through C. Can we take them as a whole? That's the most holy thing. I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Board business, item 9A. Adopt revised consolidated water enterprise fund policy and rescind resolution number 30.6.
Yes, President Halkett and members of the board, this policy is the one that we refer to as water is water policy. It's been an informal policy of the district since the early to mid 1990s, and actually been a formal policy of the district since 1997. It's up for its every 4-year review this year. We worked with the Finance Committee at their last meeting. They're presenting it to you tonight. This policy also ties into the water rate development process that is in progress, as you know, because if you were to change policy direction on this, we would need to know that to accommodate that change policy direction in our water rate study. So it's timely from that standpoint as well. And finally, you'll recall that 4 years ago, at the time the board last considered water rates, a number of recycled water customers commented on how the board prices its recycled water. So this, it's timely as we lead into another water rate study. This policy was extensively discussed by the Finance Committee at their last meeting about a week ago, and that discussion sort of went in 3 steps. The first step was, let's just look at the proposed language as if this policy was to be status quo and just move forward, and we tweaked the language a little bit, basically to conform with the policy look and feel that we have on our other policies, and to reference rather than incorporate things like the district mission statement, which sometimes changes a little bit, etc. The committee basically said, if we're going to maintain this as a status quo policy without any substantive changes, the language looks fine. The second thing the committee did was examine the various reasons why the board adopted this policy in the first place. And I was able to go back with some help from staff and exec and examine the first time the board looked at this policy, and those reasons are identified in 5 bullet points on the summary in the rack. The committee looked at those and they said, that those 5 reasons, seem to them to be as valid today as they were, when the policy was first adopted. So that sort of said that the policy shouldn't be changed. But finally, we got down to the substance of it, which is, well, okay, so how does this policy operate in terms of the district's financial structure? And what I'd like to do is call your attention to a table that's in attachment 2. It's on the back side of attachment 2 in your agenda packet. It's duplex. And note that what we did was look at this, the effect of this policy, and we realized that there were 3 major policy decisions that this board has made since the last time we did water rates that have a bearing on recycled versus potable cost allocation. Those 3 policy changes were, first of all, a decision for coverage ratios for our water debt to be met strictly through the water rate process. That was number 1. Number 2, that the board, in making a water connection fee decision about 1.5 years ago, decided that part of the water connection fee, the debt for that, should be borne by the ratepayers, and so that was allocated between recycled and potable water. And lastly, that DERWA was far enough along into real operation as time to start setting aside money for replacement of DERWA assets, which put a number of the dirt in the recycled water column that wasn't there before. The net effect of all of that is that prior to the application of the new policy decisions, recycled water operations resulted in a net annual gain of about $1.1 million, and water operations resulted in a net annual gain of about $1.2 million. Those are prior to depreciation and stuff. That's just on an operating cost basis. After application of the new policy decisions, both of those flipped, and recycled water would be projected to operate at a net loss of just under $1 million, and water at a net loss of just over $1 million. The significance of those is that by separating the enterprises at this time, and given those recent policy decisions, the rate increase for recycled water would have to be significantly greater than the needed water increase if these were treated as water. The conclusion of the committee based on that was to leave this policy alone, treat it as a combined enterprise for the time being, given the new policy direction. And I think the committee, they can speak for themselves, but I felt the committee said, it's just too many changes to be made at this time, so leave the policy as it is and re-examine it again 4 years from now, which would be about the next time we do the water rates. So with that, I'll let the committee make any comments they might make and answer any questions you might have.
I just felt that the policy, the way it was kind of cleaned up. That's why
And typically we propose this on consent, and I purposely asked for this one to be on board business so it gets a better bearing in the minutes. We have had some discussion with at least 2 customers. Boiling birds down to layman's term for a customer. If we separated 2 enterprises, the price they pay for recycled water would actually not go down; it would go up. And and they were both interested in recycled water being less expensive than it is today. So I support the water as water. What I hang my hat on with that notion is there's a large non-monetary benefit to potable customers having this large extra supply to extend our service during droughts and times of water crisis. So I have no problem with this kind of implied subsidy between potable and recycled, because I think there's a large non-monetary benefit for it. And with that, unless you have any questions or anything from the remaining board, I'll solicit a motion.
I would move for approval of item 9A.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, since we have closed sessions, we will do board member items first. Do we have any board member items? Let's just do free for all tonight.
We have an election.
None there. We have an election.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Anything from you, Don?
Good luck.
No board member. All right.
Good luck.
That's a simple board member item. Well done. All right, we're going to move into closed session. Attendees will be as described on the agenda, right?
That's correct.
All right. And we're going to be in this room or that room?
Let's go down, we've got a little bit more room.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. Ready to be done in closed session. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll join you soon. Huh? Yeah, I was done. Not today. It's a good question. Doesn't have anything else to be.
No, just because I got a note, and I was like, what is this?
No, you got it.